developers. So across the board, we're looking at front end, back end, full stack developers, mobile developers, just as some examples. They know exactly what they want.
I know exactly what you mean by that.
They know exactly what they want and what sort of workplace culture they want to be associated with. They can seem to be quite stubborn and unwilling to compromise. It really eliminates all the time wastage as well. So being on the road, the traffic, taking leave, these guys are able to fit in way more interviews. If you are in the job market, you can actually make more time for interviews because you do not have to always leave your desk.
This episode of ITWeb TV is brought to you in association with ITWeb Security Summit, the must-attend gathering for IT, security and business decision makers. Visit itweb.co.za for more information. Welcome to ITWeb TV. Today in studio we're joined by Nicole Dodd. She is a partner at the recruitment organization REDi Recruitment. Nicole is here to chat to us about some of the skills that employers are looking for, challenges that she herself as a partner within the recruitment organization or space, what they face, what are some of how technology is actually affecting recruitment in South Africa, and as well as other forward-looking trends that we can look out for. Nicole, welcome to ITWeb TV.
Thank you so much.
How are you?
Yeah, very well, and yourself?
Okay, cool.
Good.
Nicole, just to start us off, can you just tell us more about your organization and what it is that you do within REDi Recruitment?
Absolutely. Thanks, Mnikiwe. So the group company is called REDi Holborn Group, and within that there's different specialization areas and pillars. So I work in the REDi recruitment space, and I'm a partner in tech and digital recruitment. However, within the group, in terms of our different service offerings, we do have partners that specialize in legal and compliance. We have human capital, we have engineering, and we have UK and the Europe office. And we also have other areas like finance, banking, marketing, risk. But within Holborn advisory business, that looks at your C-suite and executive recruitment, as well as Africa and talent mapping. And so REDi Recruitment was established in 2008 by our group CEO, Rob Mailage. So we've been running for almost 16 years now.
And its origins are local, am I understanding that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nicole, you mentioned that you work within the tech and digital recruitment space, right?
Yeah.
Can you just tell us more about what that entails?
Sure, absolutely. So I'll give you a little bit of history, Simnikiwe. So Rob brought me on in 2012 because he started to see a need and a demand for IT skills. Our clients were asking for IT skills, and he wanted someone who had either the studies or the knowledge to really build that portfolio. So actually understand what we were recruiting for in that space. So essentially, I have been building that portfolio ever since. And clients are looking for IT technology-related skills. So, and we're starting to couple that together with digital because we're starting to see a really good blend within that space. So it's pretty much anything that falls within the technology space.
Okay. And in terms of IT skills that the clients or employers are looking for, what exactly do they want? And just to maybe further expand on that as well, is it easy to find those skills here in the local market?
Yeah, great points. So within the IT recruitment space, some of the skills that are in demand at the moment are developers. So across the board, we're looking at front end, back end, full stack developers, mobile developers, just as some examples. We're looking at solution architects. And that can also fall into different areas such as a security architect or a data architect, business architect, etc. We're also looking at cybersecurity, which I know is one of our topics, cloud developers, DevOps, and even like Agile, Scrum, product owner type roles are very much in demand. Yeah.
And finding that talent here locally, are you guys
Are we finding it? Yeah. So Simni Kiwi, I think we've got to use the word easy quite lightly, because I think some of the skills are readily available within our country. Absolutely. But to win them over is a different skill. So yes, we can absolutely find developers and cybersecurity people, architects, etc. However, we are seeing quite a big, how would you call it, where skills are leaving the country, right? We're getting that skills drainage, 100%.
Yeah.
And that is becoming increasingly difficult, because when we're having conversations with candidates, they're like, you know what, I'm in a conversation with an international company, or please can you rather contact me if you've got an opportunity overseas. That's becoming more the focus at the moment. So yes, we can find the skills. However, there are a lot of preferences that candidates have. And I think, to attract them, companies have to be very creative in attracting those talents to move over to their organization.
And do you think the reason, with talent, that is that they able to, don't want to say demand, but say, okay, no, I'm looking for opportunities, but if there's a global office, that's where I want to go. Do you think that's because they know their worth? Well, obviously they'll know their worth, but they value, you get what I mean? Like, as in the value that they would bring to the organization.
Yeah. So
they would rather maybe go overseas as opposed to, or want a role that takes them overseas as opposed to staying here. Do you think it's a matter of them just recognizing that their skills are in demand, and if I can earn more or have an opportunity to work outside the country, then they would rather take that?
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right. So candidates are looking to see if companies have a global presence. So if you're a big bank or a telcos or an audit firm, a lot of these companies have branches in Europe or the UK or the US or whatever it might be. So yes, those become very attractive, because then there's an opportunity to move overseas after a certain period of time, or to at least consider that as an idea of how they want to progress through the company. Because I think that sort of transition takes quite a bit of time. But absolutely, global presence, very attractive. And earning in a different currency, very attractive. So a lot of the talent in our country, they don't actually mind staying in the country. They've, I think due to COVID, everyone's got a really nice setup where they either move to the coast or they move to an area that is better for their family, and they are working remotely. And some of them are working for companies overseas, or keeping those options open for companies overseas, earning in a different currency and working their hours, and just having that balance that they're looking for.
And are there specific countries that, are the most attractive? Like, okay, US obviously, maybe. Well, let me not say obviously. Like the US or somewhere in Europe, or maybe, I don't know, where else, Asia maybe.
Yeah, 100%. Sure. Yeah. So I think that... So I'm learning a lot as well from candidates and clients, because they tell us where the opportunities are when we do engage with them. So a lot of the opportunities we're picking up is Netherlands, the UK, and I think that's always been there. I mean, even back in the day when it was easy to work in the UK, it's still there. A lot of people are moving there. Our CEO just moved there as well and is setting up our office in the UK. So I think that Australia's coming up. I think Singapore's coming up. Definitely the US. But also, like I mentioned, it doesn't require the individuals to move overseas. Sometimes they can actually stay in beautiful Cape Town and work for a company overseas and earn in their currency and just work around the time difference, or the time zone, essentially. Yeah.
And I suppose working like in Cape Town beats. You weigh up your options. You've got good weather, beautiful scenery, and the beach.
Absolutely.
Ocean.
What more can you ask for?
What more can you ask for? And you're earning in a foreign currency, so obviously
cherry on top, right?
We're motivated to stay. Yes. And Nicole, just to hear from you in terms of, we're talking about the skills that employers are looking for, that they would approach REDi Recruitment to help attain these skills or to bring in these skills. But from a recruitment side, how has the landscape or the sector, as if I were to put it that way, more the landscape, how has it evolved as technology evolves? What are you guys doing to bring in technology to improve or to better your work or the work that you do or the work that you do?
100%. So in terms of the technology advancements that we've seen over the years, and specifically, through my experience, so I think over the years, we've started to use more sophisticated systems ourselves as a business in order to keep our own candidate and client information. So that's become quite sophisticated, where you can do your own searches within those systems or database. Obviously, we use a lot of different career portals as well. We don't specifically use an AI sourcing tool at the moment, but I think a lot of our clients are using that. And doing a lot of trial and error and, testing different things. But if I look at how the interviews have changed from that perspective. So, as you know, Simnikiwe, back in the day, it was face-to-face interviews, right? So everyone would, jump in their car, go to a company, do your interview and go back. That was the process. But now everything is online. So, obviously we have all our tools like Microsoft Teams and Zoom and Google Meets, where we're actually facilitating these sessions or interviews. So that's become quite an advancement. I think we're also starting to implement different assessments. Companies are doing like video interviews first, where they send links and it prompts you with different questions. And there's a couple of technical things that you go through before you even get a face-to-face interview. Now, I think that has a lot to do with how technology is changing and how involved AI is becoming in the screening process. And
isn't there then a disadvantage to that? Because we understood with video interviews around during the COVID period, right?
Yeah.
We understood why that was crucial.
Yeah.
But now we've moved into a quote unquote post-COVID time. So would that not put the candidates at a disadvantage if you're a person that is not familiar with being, on video, and you can't really sell yourself on video as you would in person. And if companies are continuing with the screening via video before you actually go through a number of hoops to get to the last set, is it not putting some of the candidates at a disadvantage, isn't it?
Yeah, Simnikiwe. It is. There's pros and cons to everything in life, and I think that companies are trying different methods of screening and interviewing, and they're always open to that incredible feedback as well from our candidates in terms of how they find that. But yes, I think that it is important. Nothing beats a face-to-face interview, walking into a building, feeling the energy, meeting the person, doing a handshake, having a cup of coffee together. There's nothing that beats that sort of interaction. So yes, although, having virtual interviews, it really eliminates all the time wastage as well. So being on the road, the traffic, taking leave, these guys are able to fit in way more interviews. If you are in the job market, you can actually make more time for interviews because you do not have to always leave your desk because it's happening virtually. But I also think it's a skill that people have to learn how to sell themselves on a video call and to discuss their background and, why they believe they're a good candidate. So pros and cons. And I do believe sometimes, clients could maybe miss out on really good talent depending on their process.
And with that, is there an opportunity for REDi Recruitment, like you say, to learn how to sell yourself on video? Do you guys offer, let's say, programs that would help a candidate or help candidates if they are looking for work? Just to, if it's not going to be a face-to-face, this is how it's going to happen. So you'd be like, okay, we'd offer you some training around that.
Yeah.
What do you
Such a great question. So, this goes back to pre-COVID. We used to prepare all our candidates before an interview. That means they used to come to our offices. We used to, book a boardroom, have coffee with them, and discuss their background and prepare them for interview questions and what may come up, what they need to do their research on, how they need to prepare in terms of questions for the panel. So we still do that up until this very day. However, it's become more virtual. So every now and then we'll do a coffee with our candidates or our clients, which is actually starting to increase a little bit more these days. But also, it's difficult for candidates to make time for everything. So we will log on to a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams, and I will do the same preparation that I would do face-to-face around a virtual interview or a face-to-face interview. Pretty much everything applies. The only difference is, you kind of have to do the reminders of log in 5 minutes before, still look smart for your interview, have your notebook with questions, greet everybody on the call, familiarize yourself with the audience and the panel. It's happening in a different context, but we still very much send documentation to help our candidates as well as do a virtual preparation or in-person prep. It depends.
And are you by any chance, as REDi Recruitment, also using, social media to, help candidates that might be on the socials and they probably, let's say, unemployed candidates that are looking for work, and then they're like, I came across a REDi Recruitment page, whether it's on any of the different social networks, and then they use that as any way that you guys have incorporated social media in that
sense, yeah. So we started doing quite a bit last year, including this year, and it's been building up. We're trying to rank that up a little bit more in terms of providing interview tips, what pops up on a daily basis, how to prepare for that, because sometimes interviews are unpredictable. You don't actually know what the company is going to ask you, etc. So we are actually starting to release more articles with our trends and insights. We're starting to release more videos that all our different consultants and partners jump in and, they're given a topic that they can chat around and give advice to the market. Yep.
And Nicole, at the start of our conversation, you mentioned the different streams that REDi focuses on: telecoms, banking, the number of other areas that you mentioned. I want to hear from you. Are the IT skills that are being sought, are they the same across the different streams of sectors? Like, are they looking for more or less the same thing?
So is a bank looking for... The skills that the bank's looking for is telecommunications looking for it. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So I think a lot of the bigger corporates, maybe even the startups or the fintechs, the companies that are starting to focus a lot on technology and innovation and going digital and online, they are looking for the same skills in the market. So there is a lot of competition. There's a war for talent.
I like that.
There is a war for talent. And that's why we actually say in some of our articles, it's a candidate-driven market. So we're seeing similar trends from different sectors.
And, you also spoke to that local talent is looking for, if they were looking for work, they'll look for a company that also has an international presence, right?
Yeah.
So are you guys, from a talent point of view, are you also finding that talent from other countries outside of South Africa is looking for opportunities here, like within any organization?
So maybe our partner that sits in Europe would be able to comment better on that. But I do find that a lot of skills that are based overseas would consider remote work for companies based in South Africa. That are willing.
So they wouldn't necessarily want to move here.
Relocate, but they would stay there but work for a South African-based company. Absolutely. Obviously, the salary needs to be there in terms of yes, it needs to be competitive. But there are skills overseas that would be very attractive to companies in South Africa. Yes.
Okay. And looking at the different sectors that we spoke about, obviously, let's say for the telecom sector will probably, or like a telecoms company will need all the tech talent that they possibly can get. But also, I suppose the bank, because the banks now are kind of becoming, it's like a thing. The telcos want to be banks. The banks want to be telcos. It's
You're 100% right. There is that one-stop shop sort of trend. Yeah.
So what I maybe was thinking was then which sector is, I think I could have asked this one before, which sector is looking to attract the most tech talent from what you've noticed?
I mean, that's a good question. And so, Nikki, I actually think it's across. I think even healthcare companies are looking for the best tech. The banks, the telcos, insurance companies, even startups need the best skills in the tech space. So it's actually across the board that are looking for tech skills. Yeah, there isn't a specific industry that would require it more. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned around C-suite, those are the kind of roles that your clients are trying to fill, right?
Yeah.
I suppose in my question doesn't, because I was going to say, what can companies do to try and retain Gen Z, employees, not employees. What can they do or bring to the table? Yeah, as to entice
that particular generation.
Yeah, because you would probably have to build. Let's say if you bring someone in, they'll go up in the ladder within an organization. Because so how does one company X attract Gen Z?
Yeah. And funny enough, Simniki, we actually spent a lot of time on this question because at the moment, if you look at Gen Z at the moment is pretty much anyone born between 1997 and 2012. So if I look at the age range of the candidates that I'm working with at the moment, it's generally around, early 30s all the way up until like your 60s. That's sort of the range that we do a lot of work with at the moment. So I had to go and do a little bit of research on Gen Z, and that's pretty much everyone that's around 26, 27 at the moment and younger.
Yeah.
So they're just entering the working world. So between 21 and 22 after they graduate. And what I find really fascinating is it is a very different generation. So what I understand is that they know exactly what they want.
I know exactly what you mean by that.
They know exactly what they want and what sort of workplace culture they want to be associated with. They can seem to be quite stubborn and unwilling to compromise. And if they feel like they are not being recognized or appreciated, they sort of just, throw in the towel pretty early. They won't even engage in further conversations to say, well, how can we fix this? Let's maybe try different things in order to retain talent, So that's where the mindset is at of the Gen Z. So they have the idea of they work very hard, but when they feel like it. And what's really interesting is there's 3 points about the Gen Z that I understand is that pay is very important to them. Okay, they know their worth, they know their value, they're very confident. So compensation is important, as well as promotion and career advancement.
Okay,
they are actually looking to be promoted within 6 months.
Is that even possible?
Or less than a year? Yeah. I'm not sure. But with other companies that I'm aware of, I mean, it probably takes about a good 2-3 years before they can start considering things like promotions and whatnot. So, and they wanna be in an environment that is really meaningful and impactful, that there's purpose for them. So that's my understanding of Gen Z. So we are dealing with different preferences and ambitions and aspirations, very different to millennials. And I actually found a stat on LinkedIn that said that about 40% of the Gen Zs are actually transitioning and changing jobs more so than millennials. So I think you can already see, back to my first couple of points around, if they're not happy, they're moving on.
They're moving on.
Yeah.
And then what I wanted to hear then is, how does that impact your role of working within, the recruitment space? Like, what does that mean for you? And being a practitioner within recruitment, being a partner within REDi Recruitment, what does that mean for you as you try to fill in the gaps that your clients are looking for? I suppose it's a future-looking question.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about some of the conversations I've had with clients where they bring in graduates from universities, and within 6 months they've already been headhunted by another big brand or global organization. And I mean, it's really tough. It's tough on a company because they invest a lot of their resources, their time, financial resources to really upskill these graduates. So it is quite tough for companies to try and replace that, right? So that's very, very high in terms of turnaround, is that graduate level, people leaving and going to other organizations. And I mean, it's quite a rare case where we have candidates that leave within 3 months. Just to kind of go back to, you know, how quickly are these resources moving, etc. So we do have rare cases where it's not really aligned or it's not a good match for a candidate and they're back on the market looking for something else. So we try our best to maintain our relationships with our clients and our candidates to reassist them and also replace certain talent within their organization. You're not always going to, you know, tick every box, but that's why, you know, I think companies and candidates are always going to take that risk and see, you know, let's test it out and see if it works.
Okay. And earlier on at the start of our conversation, Nicole, you also spoke about, you know, AI. So what I want to hear from you in terms of the emergence of, you know, generative AI specifically, how do you think that will impact your industry, and where do you see it fitting into the evolution of the recruitment industry or recruitment space?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think all of us are sort of seeing how things unfold.
Are you on edge, or is not at all?
No, not at all. I think there are a lot of people who are worried about their jobs within the recruitment space. But for me, I feel like recruitment is a human process, okay? It requires a lot of intuition and EQ. And that's something that a AI tool or system will not have, okay? They cannot make those sort of judgment calls or decision making. However, where they can become really useful and how recruiters or recruitment companies can really benefit from them is more from a screening perspective, so helping with screening, looking at things like mapping skills in the market, looking at digital footprint, so looking at the analysis of that. So I think it's going to help liberate a lot of the recruitment specialists from those routine tasks. Okay. So we can really focus on where, you know, we can make more productivity and output. We can really focus on the increased productivity where that requires the human touch and not the AI tool. So I think it's going to be very beneficial. You kind of have to go in with a very open mind to it, because again, if you block things and, you know, you choose not to work with them, I think that might set you backwards.
And I think what you just mentioned now in terms of taking out some of the repetitive tasks within work is what a lot of the industry players are saying as well, that it's not just for recruitment, it's for in other areas of in other industries as well. They say a lot of the repetitive stuff will be you kind of like eliminated, which frees up a lot of your time to do other things, etc. And maybe just as a way of like wrapping up our conversation, Nicole, what would you say? Okay, if you could just tell us some. I don't know if you were to say, what are some of the other trends that you guys as REDi Recruitment are noticing outside of technology, but within recruitment?
Within recruitment. So I think maybe we can touch on things like what we're noticing from a candidate-driven market perspective. So what are candidates looking for and what are clients looking for? I think that's really important to share with the market as well. So, you know, there's a huge focus on work-life balance, flexibility, creating a lifestyle that is more optimal. You know, I think people learned a lot during the COVID period and realized that their health was more important and their families were very important. So it's creating a life that is well balanced. So whether that means living at the coast and working for a remote company, maybe that's the best setup for you and your family. So I would say candidates are also focused on health and wellness benefits. Okay. That's very important. But also that continuous learning. You know, they want the training, they want the upskilling that companies have to offer. So they want to grow, they want to be promoted, they want that advancement in their careers. And then what I would say from a company perspective, so what are companies looking for and how are they starting to transform in their requirements. So I do feel like they want people to be more digitally or technically inclined, so more computer literate, for example. So have more of those skills, because we're starting to see a blend of skills. It's not just a finance manager. Maybe it's a finance manager with some programming languages.
Okay.
Maybe it's an IT auditor with cybersecurity skills. So we're starting to see a lot of that integration of IT technical skills with business, finance, HR, engineering, etc. So companies are looking for more of that blend. They want candidates to be able to have more of that critical thinking, problem-solving ability, and just that willingness to learn at the end of the day. So those are some of the things we're seeing.
And I just want to touch on what you mentioned now around, I've just lost my train of thought. I should have written it down. But it was about, work-life balance.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of, at the start of COVID, people worked remotely, people were working from home. And then as restrictions eased, people were coming back into the office, like 3 days a week, 2 days a week.
Correct.
Some once a week.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing companies, particularly local companies, South African companies, are saying, you guys need to come back into the office. Seeing a lot of people saying and I was reading a story this week where a big company was saying, well, come back to the office, well, for their managers, for like, I think, C-level management. Then how do you then strike a work-life balance? Because you're telling your employees to come back into the office. And let's say if someone moved to the coast, now how am I going to come back to the office in Joburg when I'm living in Cape Town? And how does that then work out?
Does that work?
Yeah.
Look, I think it depends on the relationship that you have with your manager and what those regulations and rules are around being in the office. Maybe something can be negotiated, where if you are in a different province, you can then travel to Joburg, for example, once a month, or once every 3 months in order to be in Joburg for a week or two and have that one-on-one, that presence in the office, etc. But Simnikiwe, you're going to find this quite funny. I've actually had a few candidates that call me up and go, Nicole, my company's just announced that we have to go back into the office full time.
Yeah.
So I'm on the market.
Oh, no, really?
Serious. Yeah. And I mean, that's also almost going back to the Gen Z, well, this doesn't suit me. So, I'm out.
And if you know that your skill is in demand, you'll be like, you'll have a lot of options. I'm sure there'll be a lot of options open to you too.
Absolutely. I think exactly. So if it doesn't fit your current lifestyle, I think people then tend to go onto the market and they just keep going until they can't anymore. Some people then start looking at contracting opportunities because then that just allows more flexibility and maybe higher earnings as well. So I think it really just depends. But actually, funny enough, some candidates love being in the office.
Yeah.
They love having that separation between home and office. Some people absolutely love hybrid. I probably have more candidates that love hybrid than, fully remote and full-time in the office. So hybrid seems to work beautifully for most organizations. I think if you're going to ask full-time back, you are potentially going to lose a lot of talent with time. And if you're fully remote, I think still you're going to get a lot of productivity out of your people, especially if you are developing them and giving them a lot of that recognition, spending that time with them, etc., making them feel seen in their work. So it really depends on the model, the culture, what the company's vision and goal is.
And Nicole, I just thought of something now. Talking about company culture in South Africa and everything, I don't know if you've seen, there's a buzz around a 4-day work week.
Yes, I've heard about it.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? I think, there's a lot of people who manage their time really, really well. They're great at prioritizing and having a very structured day that I think if people put in 5 hours a day or 4 hours a day, they could get a lot done. And be able to benefit from an extra day of the weekend, So it really depends on the individual. I think, if you just enjoy sort of working at your own pace or whatever it might be, maybe the 5 days still okay. But if you feel like you can work really quickly, you're very structured, you you're quite determined in the work that you do because you know that there's a reward at the end, right? Like I can take the afternoon off, or I get an extra day for the weekend, so which means I'm going to work harder in order to enjoy that. So I think it will motivate a lot of people.
Awesome. Nicole, thank you so much for your time and for sharing some of your insights with us. That was Nicole Dodd. She is a partner at recruitment organization REDi Recruitment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simnik.
For more ITWeb TV videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. This episode of ITWeb TV is brought to you in association with ITWeb Security Summit, the must-attend gathering for IT, security and business decision makers. Visit itweb.co.za for more information.